read carbon tax, can't you? Look, thank you very much for the kind introduction and for inviting me along, and indeed for all the work that people in this room have done over the time to increase awareness of what I think is a very important topic. I mean, to some extent it is. It's the defining topic of our age. What kind of country do we want to be? What kind of world do we want to be? What are we trying to build? Who are we building it for? How will it be built? These questions are enormous. And as I said earlier, you might have heard my criticism of economics. We're not having a debate about economics. We're not having a debate about anything. It's simply there is no alternative. We will grow as rapidly as possible, we will define growth in the strangest of ways, and if you've got a problem with that, then you must be mad. And grateful to be surrounded by so many other mad people. I don't use PowerPoint. I think power corrupts and PowerPoint corrupts absolutely. So, what that means is someone needs to tell me when I got a minute to go, or 5 minutes to go. Excellent, because then I'll pretend that's where I was about to start wrapping up. It's a beautiful thing that I have to flick through those last 30 slides. So, look, where to start? Actually, I want to start, and I know Steve Doves is going to make a similar point. I need to start with something that's quite serious and sad. A very dear friend of mine, Tony McMichael, died last week, and it's his funeral this afternoon. And part of me would like to be at that funeral, and part of me is glad that I'm not. And Steve's going to put a photo up and say a few words about Tony as well. But Tony was a former chair of the Australia Institute. Tony, I think it's safe to say, is one of the main reasons that the Australia Institute became interested in climate change. And I think the Australia Institute in turn has spent nearly 20 years talking about these issues. In turn, I think Tony's legacy really can't be understated in Australia or indeed around the world. And if you've noticed, we don't have lead in petrol. That's pretty much thanks to Tony's research. So, yes, I wish my friend were here today. He would fit in very well. Okay, let's talk about other serious matters, like what the hell we're going to do about the way our political processes drive us to do things that not just many people in this room, but many people around the country and around the world think are either strange, outright stupid, or very clearly dangerous. Why does it happen? Why does it happen? I'm an escapee from academia. I still like to research and write, but I left academia because I realised that big decisions were made. Please don't take this the wrong way for an academic. Big decisions are made with no input, zero input from academics and people with deep academic knowledge on an issue. Why is that? Is it because the decision makers are stupid? No, that's easy. That's lazy. If you want to tell yourself that you're smart and the people running the country are dumb, then good luck with that. Did I mention that they're the ones running the country? I didn't say they're running it well, right? They've got themselves into that room. They got those hands on the levers. And one of their best assets is you thinking they're stupid. Right? One of the best things they've got going for them is the public believing that the people running the country don't have a plan. Bullshit, they've got a plan. They are working hard on the plans. Let me give you a glimpse of the plan. Australia has a larger share of world traded coal than the Saudis have of oil. Okay, we're bigger in coal than the Saudis are in oil. Our plan is to double our coal exports in the next 10 or 15 years. People in Australia at the moment are a bit sad that our plans to double coal exports might not come to fruition. Right? The plan is to double our coal exports. Now, at the moment, we dig up enough coal, 400 million tonnes, to make a road of coal a metre deep, 10 metres wide and 40,000 kilometres long. You could get around the world on a road of coal a metre deep with 1 year's coal output from Australia. But the people that you think are stupid, who don't have a plan, are planning to double that. That's what tackling climate change looks like, kids. That is Australia's contribution, in inverted commas, to tackling climate change. And if we have to build a new coal loader in the Great Barrier Reef to achieve our plan, we will. And if you think politicians are unable to make unpopular decisions because they'll be criticised, can I repeat that they're going to build a coal loader in the Great Barrier Reef? They are very comfortable making decisions that people don't like. Do not tell yourself that our politicians lack leadership and resolve. They have plenty of leadership and plenty of resolve to double our coal exports. This is not an accident. This is the plan. This was the plan under the previous government. This is the plan under the current government. This is, at the moment, the plan under the next government. Australia lives in fear that other countries will tackle climate change. Our coal exports primarily go to Japan and Korea, and only recently to China. For 20 years, Australian governments have lived in fear that countries that import energy, who don't have coal, like Japan and Korea, we've lived in fear that they might sign up to ambitious emission reduction targets. Because it's Japan's emission reductions targets and Korea's emission reduction targets that hurt our economy, not our emission reduction targets. We have played a world game for decades to slow down other countries from signing up to promises to buy less of one of our major exports. Do not believe there's not a plan. Do not believe that smart people aren't working hard to achieve it. They're winning. They're so good at winning, we perhaps don't even notice it. People often ask me, Richard, how will we cope with the transition? Oh, the transition. Let me be clear. 1% of Australians, slightly less, work in coal mining. 1%. They contribute 2% of state government revenues. They are not the backbone of the Australian economy. But if people believe they are, if we play David versus Goliath, I don't play David versus Goliath. All right, I'm short. And of course the main lesson from David versus Goliath was always enter a fight with better weaponry. There's nothing in the Bible that says the little guy is going to win. The Bible says always take a gun to a knife fight. Not usually how it's but so when it comes to the Australia Institute versus the minerals industry, well, we're Goliath because they've got better weapons than us. They dropped $20 million into a TV campaign to get the mining tax ripped up, and they attacked me for running, quote, a well-funded campaign against them. I wish. By the way, we take donations, and thanks, there's a few donors in the room, but well-funded is what the minerals industry calls us. But they're David, because they're little, 1% of the workforce. All right, boy, they've got some good weapons. All right, and their best weapon is money. And this is, where we start to move on to talking about politics. So how come 1% of the workforce is so politically important? How come Tony Abbott can get elected promising to sack 20,000 public servants? How come public sector jobs are bad and mining jobs are good? Well, that's where political power comes in. Because the thing with the mining industry, the small mining industry, is that it's very, very profitable. It's not very, very big. Right? Health is big, education is big, retail is big, tourism is big. They're big industries. Uniting Care and Anglicare employ more people than the entire coal industry. All right? They're not big, but they're rich. So the 1% who work, well, they don't own the mines. The 0.001% who own the mines, well, they make literally tens of billions of dollars by digging up our coal or our iron ore and then selling it to someone else for a very high price. Now, the Saudis have got quite a different approach to managing their natural resources. Admittedly, Saudi Arabia, not a democracy, so So not necessarily the society we want to aspire towards, but if we want to understand how to utilise mineral resources, scarce resources, then take a close look at the Saudis. So the House of Saud, the royal family, owns all of the oil. And while we pay tens of billions of dollars in subsidies to mining companies saying, would you please come and build a mine? Would you build a mine for me? Because I hear you might create a job. You know, give Barry a job, and Barry wants a job. So I'm going to give you billions of dollars if you'll create a handful of jobs. It's not how the Saudis do it. The Saudis say, yeah, got myself some oil. Dirty, dangerous job digging it up. I don't want to do that. Does anyone want to do that? Who's willing to do it for the lowest possible price? The oil companies queue up, saying, oh, I'd like to take some of your oil away for you. And the Saudis say, hang on, let me just put you in the perspective here. So you're going to come to our flats, you're going to dig a hole and you're going to get dirty. And then I'm going to pay you for your plumbing, I'm going to keep my roads clean, and then I'm going to sell my oil and make a lot of money. So the Saudis who invented OPEC thought the way to get rich was to sell as little of it as possible. As little of it as possible for the maximum price. It's worked pretty well. So the Saudis think the way to get rich is to sell as little of it as possible. And in Australia we know the exact opposite is true. We know the way to get rich is to dig it all up as quick as you can. One of us is completely wrong. One of us. Could be the billionaires in the robes, could be Nathan Tinkle. Let's be really clear, we've both got a scarce natural resource that other people want. I haven't even talked about climate change yet, I'm just talking about how the mining industry in Australia runs rampant over our body politic. Alright, foreign-owned mining companies, the industry is 83% foreign-owned. The notion that their peak body, the Minerals Council of Australia, talk about false and misleading conduct. There's nothing Australian about the mining companies who operate in Australia. Right? The mining companies who operate in Australia are here digging up our coal or our iron ore or our anything as quick as they can and sell it for as much as they can, as quick as they can. But again, these people aren't stupid. The politicians overseeing it, indeed the politicians subsidising it aren't stupid, and the people running these companies aren't stupid. So why would we be digging coal so fast and putting the world price down? Well, here's a little thought experiment for you. Imagine you owned a little ice cream van, you know, the drive around playing green sleeves, sell ice cream. There you are, driving your ice cream van around and your fridge breaks down. What would a profit maximising ice cream truck owner do if their fridge broke in their truck? I'd sell it pretty quick. Yeah. Right? Because it's not ice cream soon. It's just going to be a puddle you're going to have to tidy up. So if I owned a truck full of ice cream and my fridge broke, I reckon I'd drop the price and sell, baby, sell. So if you had 1 trillion tonnes of coal on the ground, and you thought there was some chance that someone might actually want to tackle climate change in the next 30 or 50 years, what would you do? You'd dig it up. You'd dig it up as fast as you could. And when a whole bunch of greenies stood around saying, oh, they're not very smart, look, they're losing money. They're pretty smart. They're actually they're so worried we might tackle climate change, they're in a hurry to cause it. Well, we'd be laughing. They're so worried we might tackle climate change, they're in a hurry to cause it. Because coal, in a world where we've tackled climate change, is not an asset, it's a rock. And they know it. So while the Saudis think the way to get rich is to hang on to it and eke it out, we're digging it up as fast as we can. But when I say we, I mean they. Because these decisions are being made by people with no long-term interest in Australia. No long-term interest at all. So, how am I got for time? Thought you would have shut me up by now. Captivating.
13 minutes.
Oh, heaps of time. Good. Thought I had about 8. We should get a pocket back. So, how has this come about? How have we in Australia let foreign-owned companies come to Australia, destroy farming land, literally dredge or seek to dredge the Great Barrier Reef, take $17 billion in subsidies from state governments in the last 6 years alone, on top of around $10 billion in Commonwealth government subsidies? How does that come about? How come we're paying foreign mining companies to come here and not only take our scarce natural resources away, but cause climate change while they do it? And the answer is simple. The answer is politics. Now, I alluded to this morning when I said that 90% of people think we should ban junk food advertising during children's viewing hours. I use that example because it's a nice, trivial example that shows that we could, if we wanted to, change a law. We could change a law in a way that Tony McMichael of the public health industry would say will save us a fortune in the future. We could change a law which won't destroy the economy. We'll change a law that will have very trivial consequences, except good trivial consequences on the economy, good consequences for citizens. We could do that. And we're not going to. It's not going to happen. Certainly not at the next election, and probably not at the election before that. So you've got good evidence that says banning advertising of sugar in a box to kids is a good idea. It would cost the government literally nothing to do it. It's just a simple regulation. The only consequence for the economy is that people would spend slightly less money buying Cocoa Pops and spend the same money buying something else. So it would purely be distributional in its consequence. It would mean that people who sell the sugar in a box would make less money, and the money doesn't get, let me go back a step. You hear a lot of companies do a very good job of saying, if you hurt my company, you'll hurt the economy. And this is what we like to call complete crap. People who were going to buy Cocoa Pops, who don't buy Cocoa Pops, don't take the $5 they're going to spend on Cocoa Pops and rip it up and flush it down the toilet. Right? This is not what most people do. What do most people do with the money that they were going to buy Cocoa Pops with? Buy something else. Right? So what that means is, and the technical term for this is, it has bugger all impact on the economy. But, and this is the key point, this is the point about politics, this is the key point about tackling climate change, this is the key point. The consequences are distributional. The companies that currently make a lot of money selling sugar in a box, those companies will lose money. Okay? Those companies will lose money. The economy won't lose money. The companies that do well out of the status quo will lose money. So even though 90% of the community think it's a good idea, even though all the academics think it's a good idea, even though it won't cost the government a cent, it's not going to happen because of politics. Because if you ban junk food advertising, you actually piss off three powerful groups simultaneously. You piss off the people who make Cocoa Pops, you piss off the people who sell Cocoa Pops, and you piss off the TV stations that run the ads for Cocoa Pops. And the fact that it won't cost the government a cent, and the fact that 90% of the public want it, does not make it worth pissing off three powerful groups. Because politicians' job is to sense the mood, not just in a room, but in the country. And they think the pain and pressure of having three angry industry groups is easier to take than having 90% of the public disappointed in them. These people are not stupid. That is their calculus, and they are right. Okay, if you were their political advisor and you were advising them to make decisions in their short-term political interests, your advice to them would be, there will be no blood in the streets if we keep making the fat kids get more diabetes. No one's going to care, and we can stave off a fight with the media, the grocers and the food producers. So the calculus when it comes to groceries is quite simple. And it's no different. It is no different when it comes to tackling climate change. There are a small number of people and small number of industries that make a fortune out of the status quo. Alright, it's a very good status quo. If you're a miner in Australia, you're one of the most profitable companies in the most profitable industry in one of the richest countries in the world. You're doing well, it's a good day. And all you have to do is maintain the status quo. If we want to change things, we have to agree on what we want instead. We have to communicate what we want instead in a way that convinces people who are seeking election that they should be more afraid of us than they are of the people that are quietly taking the billions of dollars off us to cause climate change. And just like the junk food industry, it doesn't matter that the evidence is crystal clear that we should tackle climate change, the scientific evidence. It doesn't matter that the economic evidence says in the long run we'll be much better off for it. It doesn't matter that most people want to do it. It's just the same as why we won't ban advertising. Our political class doesn't want to have a big fight with a small number of vested interests because the small group is actually better at expressing political power than the big group. So to join the dots between the sessions you've had today, the inequality stuff, I think is just as important as the we're going to hell in a handbasket stuff. Because the inequality is actually the main explanation for why we're going to hell in a handbasket. Because when 0.1% of the population controls 20% of a nation's wealth, then it's pretty easy for the 0.1% to figure out what it is they want. And it's pretty easy to express what it is they want. And it's pretty easy to hurt people who go against them. Whereas the other 99% are all wondering what we should do. So inequality is actually central to understanding why it is democratic processes, at least. I can't speak for the non-democratic processes. I'm just glad I don't live in one of those countries. But in the vast majority of countries in the world that are democratic, inequality is at the heart of understanding the politics of why we completely ignore evidence. Now, to move on to steady state and what we should do about these things, well, first and foremost, you actually have to have a clear map of what's going on and who's benefiting from it. And I started by saying it's easy to laugh at stupid politicians who can't think long term. Frankly, those people think a lot longer term than most of the community. All right? You don't become Prime Minister without the willingness and ability to think long term. You don't build a $10 billion mine without the ability to think long term. It is just completely wrong to suggest that the people overseeing both the investments in the things that are causing climate change and the policies that are subsidising climate change, it's just completely wrong to suggest those people, their problem is they don't think long term. They do think long term and they're winning. So step one, I think we need to have far more political awareness that it's not stupidity or naivety that's beating us, it's smart people who work hard. The second thing I'd say, I completely 100% endorse what Mark Diesendorf was saying this morning. These problems must be solved at a community, national and international level. And it's great that individuals want to grow lettuce in their backyard. That's fantastic, I do. All right, it's not going to save the planet. All right, and it's great that people are, and I think especially for kids, to be in touch, literally, with the earth and where food comes from. It's transformative and wonderful. I'm not critical of it for a second, but it's not going to save the planet. Because unless people put political effort into stopping other people from bollocksing things up, we're going to keep on losing. Right? Because simply fixing up our own backyard is about as neoliberal and individualistic as we could possibly get. So if you want to blame neoliberalism for causing climate change, but you want to tackle it as an individual, I think you might have a bit of cognitive dissonance going on there. A small group of powerful people are using our resources to subsidise their profitable destruction of our planet. And they're doing it through legal and political means. And if we want to stop it, then we need to get engaged in that. And that doesn't mean you can't grow your lettuce and hook yourself up to your own power supply. That stuff's fantastic. It's changing minds and it's changing our economy. But it's not enough. Let me just end with a reality check. In fact, 1% of people work in coal mining in Australia. It's not our backbone. Billions of dollars always sound like a lot to humans. It's my last point, so if you're looking nervous, don't worry. Alright, people always, billions and almost, $3 billion, almost a lot of money, Richard. Let me just clear this up for you. From an economist's point of view, when you hear people talking about the budget and the GDP and the economy, whenever you hear billions, you know what you're hearing? Rounding error. Rounding error. GDP in Australia is $1.5 trillion. $1,500 billion is the value of the stuff we made last year. So what's $1 billion as a percentage of national income? Come on, there's someone smart in the room. It's 1/1500th. Right, it's bugger all, it's rounding error. So when you hear that tackling climate change would cost billions of dollars, just think, oh, I didn't realise it was that cheap. We're about to spend $50 billion to build 12 new submarines to replace the 6 we haven't used yet. $50 billion. No one cares. It's rounding error. That's not the defence budget. That's not even the Navy budget. That's the submarines that hopefully work this time budget. We live in the richest country in the world, almost by every measure. If we're not the richest, it's top 3 on all of them. We live in the richest country in the world, at the richest point in world history. And the story we tell ourselves is we can't afford to tackle climate change. We can't afford to invest in the services we want. How good are the other guys at politics that we believe that? Thank you very much.